I love the neon. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay.
But not for Oregon. Your color is green. It's not yellow.
But, okay. See,
You're defined by green.
That's legitimately an incorrect statement.
It's the college football show overtime. Jason Fitz, Treavor Scales, and when we're done giving you an hour, we like to keep going.
Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the show before, every single Saturday on Twitter, you can find it from the ESPN and ESPN college football accounts. Tweet out the link. We're on from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We get you caught up on what happened, and we get the table set for what's going to happen throughout the course of the night. But afterwards, sometimes we like to have a little extra conversation.
Yeah.
And I think the theme of today has been disappointment.
For sure.
And to me, it's not just about one team here or there. It's not just about one game. The games were great.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really stands out to me is that the teams as a whole and conferences have become a disappointment.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of discussion, and it's courtesy of just being prisoner of the moment and having not a whole lot to talk about as far as game footage goes. Everybody was trying to pick what is the best division conference in football. And for me, the one that dropped off the most, and I don't think anybody was highly touting this group to begin with, but I think the Big 12 fell off in a way that still made me recognize, wow, I don't think these guys really belong in the playoff conversation just yet, even with a representative like Oklahoma. Dog, their defense is like paper mache that hasn't dried yet. I'm telling you, like it's just not great. And so for that reason alone, you're kind of scared for them being a part of this conversation. Texas takes a bad loss at the beginning of the year and has continued to bounce back. But do we really know what they are? They're currently top 10, but who knows what happens over the course of the next week or so. It's just, I don't really like the look of Big 12 Nation right about now as far as the candidates that they would put out there as far as a potential playoff candidate.
And you mentioned Texas, and I think their win over Baylor is, hey, anytime you get a win over a conference,
you gotta have it. Yeah.
It's good, but it didn't look. I mean, the eye test has to matter. And what we're seeing across college football are conference games that they just look ugly.
Yeah.
And I know we're used to that to a certain degree, but there's always cream that eventually separates.
For sure.
But I think when you talk about Oklahoma and Texas and even West Virginia, you're not seeing cream that separates or rises. Now, for me, the lack of the rising, for me, the most disappointing is by far the Big Ten. And I'll look at the Big Ten East specifically
For sure.
and look at that and say, look, Michigan State, yes, they get a big upset over Penn State. They're a 4-2 team that's not good.
Right.
Penn State
has now lost two.
And look, take Ohio State, compartmentalize and put them in a little box and put them off to the side, just like we do Bama. But when you look at the rest of the Big Ten, I'm still waiting for the landmark win for Harbaugh. I'm still waiting for the landmark moment for Franklin. I'm still waiting for Michigan State to give us something consistent. Those are all three programs that by funding, by fan base, by popularity, by passion, should all be part of the national championship conversation. And when you're talking 2 or 3 losses for all of those types of teams, that's a massive disappointment.
Okay, but I'll refute that with the possibility of it not necessarily being that these teams are disappointing, but that they could frankly be beating up on each other. And I'm not.
Yeah, if they looked good.
Yeah, and again, I will absolutely endorse that line of thinking because, frankly, I'm not impressed with the Brian Lewerkes, the Shea Pattersons as of yet. But I am impressed, as we said, we'll compartmentalize Ohio State and Dwayne Haskins up into an upper echelon that nobody else in the Big Ten East has reached. But I think, given that, there is still some discussion to be had about maybe these guys just are right there at a firm 2 slot that just isn't quite Ohio State's level. So is it reason to be disappointed in them, or is it just a recognition that there is just one that is so far above the rest of them?
I find it disappointing, and I'll use the Pac-12 as the example of the other side. Look, we watched an Oregon-Washington game today that was a clean, well-played football game. Yes, Browning didn't have necessarily the best game. He had a day to forget in some ways. But I didn't watch that thinking, man, I'm watching awful football right now.
For sure.
Awful jerseys for Oregon, but not awful football.
We're going to get to that in a second.
But realistically, when you think about Oregon and Stanford, the big game that we all remember from the massive comeback.
Yep.
That was a meltdown by Oregon, but it was still well-played football on both sides of it. Can you say the same about Michigan State when they lost to Arizona State? No, that wasn't well-played football. Can we say that about Michigan in general? No. I mean, Shea Patterson has had maybe a half that was up to what we think it should be. Across the board, when I think of the Pac-12 right now, I'm at least thinking, okay, these teams might not be as talented, but they're playing good football.
That's fair. personnel-wise, I think there may be a chasm that, the Pac-12 might be on the wrong. There it is, man. Yeah. Couple $500 words will be thrown in there in our little discussion here on the College Football Show. You never know. But again, I think there might be a little bit of a discrepancy in the talent. But again, I will concede that the Pac-12 is playing a brand of football that is exceeding, I would say, expectations, at least towards the top, that a lot of people had. So, yeah.
It's all about the eye test, and the eyes were abused today by the awful uniforms.
Okay, yeah, let's get to that.
I love the neon. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay.
But not for Oregon. Your color is green. It's not yellow.
But, okay. See,
you're defined by green.
That's legitimately an incorrect statement. First of all,
like yellow is a color. It's not the color.
Oh, no, you don't just have a color for any program across the college football nation.
Part of your jersey, but it shouldn't be your jerseys are green.
Okay.
This is the same school that made the trash decision.
So they only allowed to have one color jersey. Only allowed to have one color jersey.
No, but you got like a primary color.
Okay, so your primary color. So what's the secondary color?
Secondary color is yellow.
Okay, so why in the heck are they not allowed to have a yellow jersey?
Because we make fun of it for color rush in the NFL.
No, okay.
We turn around and like, oh, that's awful. Oh, but we love it when Oregon does it. This is the same school.
They're fighting styles. Oregon did it first. Now you
Oregon wore white. Again. They wore white for a national championship game.
You were having a lot of hater tendencies earlier today, and they starting to resurface in our little overtime. We got to get rid of that by next week.
You know what? He's Trevor Scales. You can follow him on Twitter. Tell him how bad those jerseys are at Trevor Scales. I'm Jason Fitz. If you agree with me, I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, just leave me alone. At Jason Fitz. Be sure to check out the College Football Show every single Saturday on Twitter from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.